The more I see of the Snyder Cut, which, by the way, hashtag release the Snyder Cut, and the original vision of Zack Snyder for Justice League, the more I think that that would have been a far superior version of the movie than what moviegoers got when they went to the cinema or purchased the Blu-ray, DVD, or 4K or digital versions of the movie once it came to home release. Now, recently Zack Snyder has been sort of the Edward Snowden of the Justice League. He's just been dumping out information like left and right about like, I would have done this, so here's what would have happened. And we got another dump like that the other day, which was the confirmation of Martian Manhunter in the movie. Something that people had suspected for a while, and the identity was someone that was suspected to be Martian Manhunter back in his inclusion in Man of Steel. It's not something I ever thought of. I had read some of the fan theories on it, but I never put a ton of stock into it because I just figured like, oh, you know, if that was going to happen, it would have happened. But it looks like that was going to happen in the original Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League. So Zack Snyder actually posted on Vero, which is a bit of a lesser known social media platform than some of the giants, these concept storyboards of the Justice League movie that reveal Martian Manhunter. Now, it looks like this is the scene with Martha Kent and Lois Lane having coffee together and meeting together to actually talk about Clark and the events of Man of Steel, you know, BVS, the outcome of that. But I can't tell if that's really what it is. That's what it seems like to me. This doesn't look like the Daily Planet, but it's such a rudimentary sketch that there's no way to know. The door shuts, and one of the characters is revealed to be Martian Manhunter, who turns around, faces the camera, and then transforms into General Swanwick. Now, we know this is Swanwick for two reasons. One is the very light pencil sketching above the figure that says Swanwick, which I missed the first time I looked at this image and feel like a moron for. But the second way that we know that this is Swanwick, even if that wasn't there, is that in the second image that he uploaded to Vero, Zack Snyder captioned, "I was able to shoot all of it except for the Harry Lennox side. It was my intention to do that in LA." So Harry Lennox is the actor who plays General Swanwick, who now we know would have played Martian Manhunter. And he cheekily had said, this is something that you probably didn't know in the first image at the bottom. So it's odd to me that this information keeps coming out. Like, I'm glad it does. Like, it's great to see. But this whole thing really shows how much of a mess Justice League ended up being. Now, I don't think the movie's like necessarily bad, but the more that we see of this, the more it looks like this would have been a comprehensive, fuller film. It looks like it would have actually given intentionality to some of the characters that have been around since Man of Steel or even BVS and shown why they're there. Like, General Swanwick wasn't just there as a stand-in for the military, he would have been an actual character. And this also would have united the Seven, really. Now, yes, this is not Green Lantern, but there were some hints that Green Lantern, that would have played more of a role in the movie as well, or at least it would have been set up for future installments to delve more into that seventh member. Because obviously, as you remember, the Green Lantern Corps is really just kind of touched upon in that movie. It's not really ever there, so to speak. So it's weird that we got sort of this Justice League hybrid where it's most of the league, but not everybody. And it appears that this entire scene was shot like Zack Snyder said, except for one frame or one last couple second clip of Harry Lennox being, you know, showing up in person without the VFX at the very end of the transformation. Which makes me wonder why this didn't make it into the movie. That would have been very easy, you know, a very quick shoot to just bring him in costume and say, okay, now stand here, and we'll have this, you'll be in front of this green screen, and we'll have you transform from this alien back into yourself. It's not like he would have had to do anything for that. So it's very odd to me that this didn't make it in the film. And it further cements my disappointment in the Justice League and in Warner Brothers' decision to really can Zack Snyder. I know he's not a perfect filmmaker, and people feel different ways about him. I personally love his interpretation of Watchmen, and his changes he made to the ending, I think, really fit the visual medium. I think he's done some great work, but I know he's a bit of a polarizing movie figure. That said, it just seems like he had a much more comprehensive understanding of what he wanted this film to be. So I'm of two minds like this. I know that they've course corrected, so to speak, like with quotation marks, because some people liked the course of the original movies, but they have course corrected to go different directions with some of these characters, like Robert Pattinson Batman and Aquaman kind of being his own thing, Wonder Woman 1984. So there are changes here. But I also just keep thinking I wish we could see this original cut. I wish that we could see what he was doing. And that is why I do want to draw my attention here and the audience attention back to the whole release the Snyder Cut movement. They're doing a lot more for it than, someone like me. All I can really do is draw attention to stories like this as they come up and positively spread awareness of this, because I think that, one, the release the Snyder Cut movement, despite some of the negative connotations around it, because for some reason people have gotten mad at that movement and that group of people, I think they've done a lot of good in a couple of different ways. Because first off, they really have done a lot of suicide prevention and suicide awareness type things, as far as making money for suicide prevention and also drawing attention to it with the whole tragedy around Zack Snyder's family. But they've also really drawn attention to studio interference in movies. They've kind of shown us a bit more of a behind the scenes curtain that we maybe wouldn't have seen otherwise. Because personally, I don't know if Zack Snyder would be releasing all this stuff if all the fans like you guys didn't have such a vested interest in it. So honestly, from me, I will say a thank you for that, because it lets me see what this could have been, and maybe if we're lucky, what eventually the Snyder Cut will be if it ever comes out, which, still fingers crossed for that, because the DCEU is still around. It's still a continuity in the worlds of DC, and it would be great to at least get closure to that chapter of it, even if you're going to move away from it in the future. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Were you excited to see the confirmation of Martian Manhunter, General Swanwick, making it into the original Snyder Cut? Does this just upset you more and make you a little bummed out that you can't see that? I want to hear all your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed what you saw, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you in the next one. And one more time, for posterity's sake, which I'm sure I'll say again, #release the Snyder Cut.